This is Roger Struckoff with Syscon TV. We have arrived at day 3 of CloudEXPO, Internet of Things Expo, DevOpsSummit, all being co-located here in one big show at the Santa Clara Convention Center in the heart of Silicon Valley, and we are joined again by Dan Lynn of AgilData. We spoke in New York about what's going on in their world, and we're going to speak again because 6 months in this industry is a long, long time. So welcome back. Let's talk about what? Data flows? What should we talk about?
Well, we last talked in June, I believe. Yep. Is that correct? And what we learned in between June and now, after doing quite a bit of customer work, is there's a very common problem that the enterprise data industry hasn't solved yet. And that problem is that as companies add data and they add new features into their application, they add new data stores that are specialized for those purposes. So you're adding a huge slew of open source and proprietary things like Cassandra and HBase and MongoDB and Elasticsearch and Kafka and Spark and other things on the Hadoop stack, and it becomes this operational nightmare just to manage. You have to add teams for that, and for every team that you add, it's more inertia and it slows down the time to innovate for organizations. So what we've learned in that is the data modeling, the data flow throughout the organization is the thing that nobody has a firm grip on. It's baked into these tiny connections between the systems, and it's very hard to model outside of a UML, which isn't really executable or manageable, or outside of a process diagram in PowerPoint. It's a tough problem to solve, and we think we have a very interesting angle on that, to model that data flow as a streaming flow throughout the organization and use a language that people already know. And we think that language is the SQL language. I'm not talking about the SQL database server, I'm talking about the language.
The language. Now, is this because there's sort of a rampant do-it-yourself mentality out there? Or can customers coming to you sort of too late sometimes?
That's a good question. People, they don't really have a mentality. They just fall into it. You know, you have a team, you have a requirement, you select a technology, you have to integrate it, and now you've got 2 technologies, and you got to do it again, now you got 3, and it becomes this rather kind of hairball mess, right? You can bring in companies to help you with that from a consulting perspective, and often you end up with another hodgepodge of various logos on your technology stack slide deck. The logos themselves aren't bad, but the orchestration and the management of those is a challenge.
Okay. So take me through exactly what you do and why customers should engage with you from the beginning.
That's a great question. What we do, an initial engagement for us is we'll go help a company achieve new value by using data. So they have an initiative they're trying to do, maybe they're trying to do a new kind of processing, expose it to users, or a different kind of analytics. We go in there and say, what are you trying to do, step 1? What do you already have in terms of technology and data? And can you model it using SQL as a data flow? And we can help with that first step. We don't have to tackle the whole ocean in that shot just by modeling it that way. Our distributed query execution layer will model that as a single continuous flow of streaming data for that particular use case, orchestrating underlying systems. So we'll talk to Spark as an execution engine. We'll stick data in Cassandra if you need it there. We'll read data out of HBase or out of message queues like Kafka or RabbitMQ or things like that. It fits into your organization with the technology you already have, but providing a common abstraction layer to make sense of it.
How concerned are you with where the source, like what I'm talking about is mobile actually, how concerned are you about the mobility and the sources of data? Where do you jump in?
That's a great question. The fact that the availability of different sources of data is only expanding is a great thing for our business, because we often hit an organization right behind the services layer. So you have that microservices architecture, or you have some sort of front end that the mobile data streams are entering through, right? And that's the point where we get involved in the data center. Our query planner treats that as a continuous stream of data and allows you to transform that in different ways into the appropriate databases and structures for consumption by applications or APIs.
Microservices, we didn't even use that word a year ago, so talk a little bit about that. I mean, it's like evolution out of control or something.
Oh yeah, the microservices kind of thing it's like, in my opinion, it's the next wave of SOA, right? Yes. And what's nice is they're independently deployable units of functionality that you can compose to create larger functionality. Netflix has been a tremendously influential player in the microservices space. They pioneered a lot of the technology and really led the charge there. I think it's very good for orchestrating API calls and simplifying deployment. I'm not so sold on the fact that you could build a data processing infrastructure with microservices. I've seen customers try to do it before, and the exact same problem I'm discussing becomes rampant. It's hard to visualize where's the data, where's the bottleneck, where's it not flowing. That sort of challenge for routing data through a collection of asynchronous microservices becomes a very challenging modeling exercise.
I edited books about SOA like 7 years ago, and now it's come back through this guise, and it's just as complex as ever. Are you agnostic about vertical markets and you can't reveal a lot of proprietary information about customers, but do different types of businesses present uniquely different challenges, or is a data flow as far as you're concerned?
From a technical perspective, you can say a data flow is a data flow, but because we're often in there advising on strategy, our specific expertise in certain verticals is sometimes more useful. We've had a lot of success and a strong foothold in the insurance space, in the mobile, and especially massively mobile gaming space, where you have a lot of data flowing, in the sensor arena. So we are closer to companies that have to deal with real-time structured or semi-structured data that they need to create new features from, things that impact the top line. You're trying to use data to add value to the business and not just from an analytical standpoint.
Someone told me that unstructured data is 80% of all new data, and maybe that's just for their customers. I'm not sure if that's for the world, but what are you saying?
I believe that metric, and it depends upon what you're looking at. Like log data is perhaps what you would call semi-structured data. Yeah. There's no such thing as completely unstructured data, right? So log data has lots of repetitive data, and it's very easy for that kind of data to become 80% because you're repeating things. There's zero normalization in it. You repeat the same thing over and over for every line of that type of data. And so it's very easy for it to expand much faster than if you had applied structure early on and simplified.
Yeah, it's kind of a meta question. It can't be non-structured or it wouldn't be data. But it's non-traditionally structured data, and that's too hard to say, so we just go with unstructured.
Yeah.
But I was talking about agnosticism a little bit with respect to verticals, but also no matter where you're at, I'm imagining the data flows themselves are growing. Worldwide, the amount of data that's being processed is doubling every 3 years. So I'm sure you're seeing that, feeling that with your customers. I mean, how do you build things when the fire hose keeps getting bigger?
That's a great question. The challenge is the volume is doubling and exponentially growing, and not to quote McKinsey, but the variety is also exponentially growing. Yes. And so you have two different dimensions there. There's also some more. There's whether or not you believe it, if it's true, and then there's just the volume. How fast is it? How fast is it changing? But how do you handle that? First off, you have to. We are past the ability to scale up on a single server. So no matter what technology you're using to process data, it has got to be horizontally scalable. Yes. And that's a fundamental concurrent programming challenge, right? Yes. It's placing a huge burden on development teams and operations teams to learn functional programming, because functional programming is the most simple paradigm for processing concurrent data. And it's a hard thing for many development teams because they've been working in an object-oriented, single-core, maybe multi-threaded mode, but not working with immutable data structures and the concepts like map and reduce and the flat map and things that you see in a modern Spark architecture or something like that. You have to use those technologies to scale out to handle this. Right? And it's a big challenge for organizations to train those teams in these new technologies. We believe you don't have to do that. We believe that SQL, something that people already know, is a language that you can translate into that functional paradigm and execute across the entire organization on multiple back-end systems to simplify this, simplifying the variety by allowing you to extend data structures, and simplifying the volume by allowing you to add more servers in parallel without changing the existing code and flows you already have.
So where do people find you online, your URL, and tell them again why they should be talking to you?
Sure. Our company's called AgilData. We've been around for 7 years. We do big data. We help companies simplify their data architecture by modeling it as a data flow across a variety of open source and proprietary systems, things like Cassandra, HBase, MongoDB, Apache Spark. You can find us at www.agildata.com. That's AgilData.com.
Beautiful. Good to see you again.
Yeah, you too, Roger.
Let's talk every time we have a show. You heard it here. I see the sign. Go contact them. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. For SysCon TV, This is Roger Struckoff.